Hey y'all. We are going to be on YouTube. The debate starts at 9. I went live early to get folks to come in and settle in and get your snacks ready, park your place, and be there. Let me set up. I got Instagram set up. That's good. And let's see what I got over here. All right. I know that's right. You said that. Oh, we gonna have a time tonight. We gonna have a time tonight. We are gonna have a time. Let me just test everything, make sure that you all can hear. Let me, we are gonna watch via C-SPAN.
Two
Let me know
United
if y'all
States
can hear
senators
this.
who built their
Let me know if you can hear
reputation
this.
and career on the
Because I have
segregation
my AirPods
of
in,
race
to
in this
kinda cut
country.
that
You also
sound, so
worked
just
with
let me
them
know if
to
you can
oppose
hear
busing.
them.
And, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class
So I'm
to
watching it on
integrate her
C-SPAN,
public
so this is their
schools.
pregame show.
And
You can
she was
hear it? Okay,
bused to
great. Oh,
school
so
every
we are
day.
good money.
And
All
that little
right.
girl was me.
So listen, if you're on Instagram and you wanna come
So
back
I will
at
tell you
9
that
when
on
we
this
start, that's
subject,
fine.
it cannot be
Um,
an intellectual
if you're
debate
on
among
YouTube, you
Democrats.
already
We have
know
to
we
take it
we gonna get stuff
seriously.
going.
We
I'm
have to
probably
act
gonna go pop
swiftly.
an edible because I don't know how I'm gonna make this with,
Professor
the
Azari,
clear
what was she
mind. I
doing there?
don't know, but if you are on Instagram, please, if
Well,
you
it's
can,
this is a really
come and
great
join us on
question. This is
YouTube.
one of the
That's
iconic
how I'm able
moments
to
of that
put
very
people's,
crowded and very busy
comments up like
2020
this. The
primary
comments from
season. And I
Instagram
think, I
don't
mean, mainly what she was
come over
doing was what we
here.
expect candidates to do in that
I
setting, which
love
is
it. You
attack the
bought
front
2
runner.
fresh vapes. That's what
And
we
I think
need.
this was an interesting
It's the
moment
only way some of us can make it
in
through
the
this,
Democratic
you know what I
Party's history
mean?
because
If you
Biden
come
had
over to
started to emerge
YouTube,
even
we've
by
got
this
a whole
early point
community over
as a
here.
candidate
We already got
of
15
the
people
African
in the chat, and
American
I just
voting
went
bloc
live a
within
minute
the
ago, so
Democratic Party, who was
come
popular with
on
African
over.
American voters as someone who had
Oh,
worked
you
with that
couldn't
community
hear
for
me
a
on
long time and
IG? The
served as
folks on
Obama's
Instagram
vice
said they could
president.
hear me.
And Harris, I think, maybe was
Oh,
expecting to have a
no.
little more inroads with
Well, we
those
love
voters.
having you
And so
here,
perhaps this was her
Amanda.
attempt to do that.
So
Perhaps it's her
happy.
attempt to
What up,
distinguish
Rika?
herself
Good to see
in a
you.
crowded Democratic
You
field.
know,
That's a really tough thing to
make sure you
do.
hit that like
And
button.
it's not entirely clear
Go,
that it was effective.
hit
I
that
think
like button
it
on your
was
way in. If
important.
you haven't
It's
subscribed to
something
my
that we still
YouTube,
talk about. It's,
back.
I think everything that she
Yep,
said
we back up.
was true
We back
about, was
up.
factually
We
true
doing it.
about her life and
All
about what
right, y'all.
Biden had said
We really
about
about to do
some of
this,
those
and it's gonna
senators
be
that he
great.
served with in the
Hi,
1970s.
Ruth. Good to
And
see
so I think
you.
it's certainly an important issue
Good,
to bring
good,
up. I think
good.
as a piece of debate
All
rhetoric in
right.
a primary context, I don't know that it was terribly effective. I don't know that it
Y'all
did
silly.
bring a lot of
All right,
support
let
to
you know.
her.
So, Professor Azari, does she do it that tonight? Does
I'm gonna
she
put
tell her
them down.
story tonight? Does she need to?
Thank you, thank you, thank
That's
you.
a good question. I've heard a lot
You can hear
about this in the
everything. See, on
pre-debate
Instagram, they saying they
commentary
could
about
hear, so I
that
don't
voters
know.
don't know who
Amanda,
Kamala
maybe there was
Harris
something
is.
going on
And
you. And
there are a lot of
I
different
try
ways
to
we can
make sure that
interpret that
we
question.
get all the tech
We
stuff
could
done
interpret that question in
so
terms of
that
her
we have that.
background or her character or
If
what
you're
she has to
on
say about herself. She did
Instagram,
some
I
of that
did
in the
hit,
DNC, and I expect she'll do
say
some
join
tonight.
us on
But debates
YouTube.
do tend to be more focused on
I appreciate
policy
people
matters, and so
coming
I
in,
think I
liking
expect
it.
to hear
Share it
much
with people.
more
Share,
about
share, share.
how
Good
she
to
will
see you.
be
Good to see you.
both
Happy that you're
similar and different
here.
from the
We
Biden
love to have you
administration. I
here.
expect to hear a
Share it
lot
with
more
people. Make
about
sure you
themes
let
of
everybody know
continuity
we're over
across
here. We're gonna have
across those
you all
administrations.
know,
I expect to really hear her try to highlight
we're not
her opponent.
playing
She's
over here.
been,
We have
I
a good
think,
time. Oh,
very
you know what I'm
consistent
gonna
in the
do?
way.
Let me share the bingo with y'all. Let me share the bingo so y'all can screenshot it, and that way you have it. Let me share that because we got a new bingo today, y'all. All right, let me know if you can see that. Let me know. Let me make it bigger. There you go. Real quick, go ahead and screenshot that. So we have Harris laughs. I'm speaking. Trump interrupts Harris. No taxes on tips. Trump laughs. Trump avoids answering question. We know that's gonna happen a lot. Trump calls Harris a Marxist. I don't know why he's been doing that. If she was, I'd be like, hey. Woo! um, Harris rolls her eyes. Okay. Oh, happy birthday, man! Happy birthday! You've been a long time follower and supporter of me. Appreciate you so much. Happy birthday to you. Um, Harris says hostage deal. Okay. Somebody mentions the Palestinian people, you know, maybe. Trump mentions free IVF, the term illegal aliens, you got a free space. Harris mentions being first gen, right? She's gonna talk about her heritage or something. Someone discusses fracking, and that might end up being a question. A shout out to Alpha Kappa Alpha, if she does that. She says Joe and I. Harris mentions being raised middle class. We all know she's been using that middle class thing, even though her mama was rich, but technically middle class, right? Any mention of Hunter Biden, because Trump likes to talk about Hunter Biden just for no reason. Like, I don't know if he fantasizes about the dude or what. Anyway, when I was Attorney General, so if she says when I was Attorney General, Trump rubs his nose, and I was trying to be nice, but he got cocaine nose, and he got that cocaine drip. So if he does anything like that, with the sniff, uh, she calls him a felon. That'd be funny. Trump mispronounces Kamala when she says we can do better, like kind of as her deflection when she's called out on like how the Biden administration has messed up. And then Trump complaining about the media. I hope you screenshot that. I hope you got that. I didn't realize I was on the screen. I did my little like Coke nose thing. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he got the cocaine nose. He be like, you'll see him. He'll be like, so you get to drink if he does that. All right. So everybody got it? Everybody screenshot it? Okay, let me put the pregame show on. Let's see. Let's share the screen. And then we got this over here. Y'all telling me y'all
But
can
I
hear
mean,
it, so that's
we
good.
need her to speak
It's
in
kind of
such
a
a way that
pregame
is
show.
not going to give
I
them
am
reasons
going to
to not
go
vote for
grab
Harris. I
some
would like
drugs,
her to be
and
respectful and look
I will
towards
be right back.
something that will help
Okay,
move
so
them towards her, or at least prevent them from dismissing her as a candidate that's a viable option
All
for
right,
them.
Beverly, what message would work to do that, do you think?
Respect. And that you
Just
are
respect,
welcome.
just a tone of voice, not a policy issue?
I mean, the policy issues are tricky out here, but I think it's really more about feeling respected, not alienated, not humiliated, the opposite of the basket of deplorables. Because once that hit, I heard from my friends over and over again, that was it. And they would never consider voting for her. And so I think Harris has to be really careful in a community like mine. It's to not trip over an insult or an unintended issue that's going to alienate people, because there are former Trump voters. They're very quiet. They won't put out yard signs. They won't really talk about it. I've had offline, in-person conversations, and they're willing to not vote for Trump, but they have to not be offended by Harris. And so I really hope she can thread that needle and do a beautiful job of leaving the door open for them with graciousness and welcome.
All right, Beverly in Virginia, Democratic caller there. John, Lakewood, New Jersey, Republican. John.
Yes, hello.
Unmuted.
Hi, John. What do you want to hear from the former president tonight?
I'd actually like to hear from the
I
Vice
said
President.
I don't need to go
I'd
get
like to
no
hear,
drugs because I yanked the
her
mic out.
speaking about the border. I
Then
think a
my
lot of
dumb
people
ass
are
forgot.
wondering about that, like where's she been, in the last few years. And
I'll be back.
I'd also
I'll
like
be
to
back.
hear her, answering up for her, for foreign policy, especially in Israel, the conflict, and to hear more what she's going to do about that.
Okay. All right. We will be simulcasting ABC's debate here on C-SPAN networks, and you can watch here when it begins at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Also, if you're on the go, you can watch on our free video mobile app, C-SPAN Now, and you can also on our website, cspan.org. You'll be able to find the debate after it's over tonight as well. When it concludes, we're going to go back to the phone lines, have a conversation with all of you, and get your reaction to tonight's debate as well. We're expecting it to last about 90 minutes, so around 10:40 p.m. Eastern time
I am
is when we
supporting
expect the debate
this
to
Black-owned, woman-owned business.
We'll pick up
don't
here
usually
with resume our conversation
baked
with
edibles.
all of you tonight and
I've
get
been
your
really
reaction. Joyce,
I don't know what it is about baked goods. I don't know.
Asbury Park,
I'm gonna
New
try
Jersey,
these. It's
Democratic
only 10
caller. Hi,
milligrams,
Joyce.
so it ain't gonna really do much of
Hi.
nothing.
How are you?
Because I gotta
Hey,
save up.
go
I got
ahead
my
and
drink
What do
for
you
the
want to hear from the
bingo.
candidates tonight?
Well, I really don't care what
You
Trump
said
says because I would never ever vote for
I
him.
haven't
So I
even
really don't care
started.
because all he
This
does
is why
is
I said
lie
I don't
anyway.
need no drink.
But I would like for the VP to speak more about her policies.
No, I've been drinking.
Since there's so many people out there stating that she doesn't have any policies. She has
Oh,
a lot
going
of
to get
policies.
popcorn. This is gonna
She
be
has
fun.
a great agenda that she wants to put forth to the country. So that's what I would like to hear. But I
Get
would
your
also like
popcorn.
to address one caller when they said that she should be respectful to his
All right.
supporters. I totally disagree.
What's some
because his
predictions?
supporters are very disrespectful
Do they ship?
and they're rude.
I don't know. You
And
want to
some
look?
of
Maybe
them you
look
just
them
can't
up.
talk to.
Butter cake. If you
So
don't live
her
in a
being-
state
she's
where
a
this
very
is legal,
respectful
nah.
person anyway. So I just think that call was just unnecessary and really didn't make any
I might
sense.
be able to.
But basically that's all I have to say.
Okay,
don't mind
Joyce.
illegal
Kevin
drug
in
running.
Hampton, Virginia, Republican.
So we're gonna
Kevin,
try
our
this.
cameras are inside
Try
the
this live
Philadelphia
on camera. If you
Convention
know the
Center
people who
tonight.
are
That is where
behind
all
this,
the media has gathered ahead
have
of
them
tonight's
reach out to
debate,
me.
and that's where we're going to
I am
hear from
happy to
supporters
be
of
a
these
brand
candidates.
ambassador.
Some already talking to the media
In
ahead
fact,
of
if you
tonight's
know
debate. There'll
any
be more in the
cannabis
so-called spin room after
companies
the debate.
that are looking for
Kevin,
brand
what do you want to hear
ambassadors,
tonight?
especially someone who lives in a state where it's
I'd
legal,
like to hear some
I'm happy to
honesty,
do. I can't even
some
open this.
civility,
And that's what
and America really needs healing
they
right
really
now.
make it so kids
I'm
can't get into
I'm
it,
hoping that
and they make it so adults can't
we're
get
able
into
to
it either.
come together
So
and
we're gonna try.
just really
This
move
little
past this
piece of.
dark period in our history.
All right, Kevin in
I
Virginia,
really thought this was a
Republican. Thorn
cookie.
in California,
It is part
Democratic
of a
caller.
cookie.
Let's hear from you next.
Hi, how are you?
This must be
Doing
some
well.
highly
What do you want to hear
concentrated
tonight
shit.
during this debate?
Mhm.
Well, I don't think that we should have the standard.
Yeah, movie
where
theater
Kamala has to
popcorn would be the
perfect.
lick.
And it's primetime
Oh,
TV. I'm just excited to
not too bad.
see her take down
Ain't too bad,
Trump
ain't too bad.
and have it be just a really great prosecution of
It's
all
kind
that
of
he
big
has
for 10
achieved in his
milligrams,
life.
right? I'm not
You
tripping.
call it primetime TV. What do you mean?
It does.
I mean, I'm waiting for the next season of House of the Dragon, and this is the next best thing.
Okay. We'll take a
maybe it
look
is
at New York
super
Times
concentrated.
headline.
All right,
by
what's
their
our
media
predictions?
reporter today?
What's the mess
Predicting
gonna
the
be
debate
tonight?
ratings.
What is
Super
the mess
Bowl?
gonna be
Nah.
tonight?
Seinfeld
All right,
finale?
turn this
Maybe.
down some.
And this is what he writes
What y'all think?
about tonight's debate. The record for a presidential debate is
Zaza's in
84
Detroit.
million
Might be a
viewers. For
good
the
play.
first meeting in 2016
Detroit kind of far.
between Hillary Clinton and Mr. Trump. So Tuesday's bout
Wait,
between
it's
Mr.
legal in
and
Michigan?
Mr. Trump,
That's what's
which
up.
will be
I need to
simulcast
find out
on
where
nearly
all the
every
states
major
are.
network, could
Oh,
theoretically
thank
draw an
you.
audience akin to that
You know,
of
it's
the
so funny
final
because people really think
episodes
that I
of
dyed my
Seinfeld,
hair. I'm like, bitch, this shit was $10.
76.3 million, and Cheers, which was 80
This
million.
is a very
Mr.
hard
Trump's
color to
presence
achieve
alone
on
suggests a large audience will
kinky
tune
hair.
in. He
I
has
buy this shit.
participated
I
in
buy it
3 of the
$9.99 a pack.
4 most watched general election debates
So
since
Cheeto will talk mad shit
1976. The Hollywood Reporter,
and not stay on
with
task.
the
No, he's not gonna
ratings
answer a damn
numbers
question.
for
He's not
the
gonna answer a
June
damn
debate
question.
of this election
I
cycle, when it was the
do
former
not
president
believe
against
that he's gonna
President Joe
answer
Biden.
any of these
The
questions,
ratings
and that's
of
fine.
that debate drew 51 million viewers, way
What
below
up, Instagram? Come
the
on over to
2020
YouTube. We over
numbers,
here.
which saw
Hi,
closer
Talisa. Come
to
join us over
70,
on
around 73
YouTube.
million
So
in
I'm a YouTube
2020.
Premium
So a
person.
big
So you know,
audience
with YouTube Premium,
expected
you can
for
watch
tonight's
videos and still
ABC
navigate other things on
debate,
your
and we will
phones
be
and whatever.
simulcasting here
I
on the
advocate for it.
C-SPAN
Of all the
networks.
streaming services
Glenn
that
in Union,
I pay
Kentucky,
for,
Republican.
I
Glenn.
think that YouTube Premium is probably my favorite.
Hello.
Hi, Glenn.
But come on over if you're at home, you got your laptop, your iPad, your computer. Come on
I
over
wanted
to
to call because I
YouTube. That's
am
where
in
the
support of
family
Trump,
is. Everybody's getting
and
snacks right
I've
now.
been in support of Trump
Everybody's
since the
getting their
very
drinks
first time he
together.
ran
Everybody getting
in
their little
2016.
they
And the
little
reason
you know,
why
they little
we
vices,
originally
you know.
support
we getting
him. We
settled
can't
in.
forget that.
Starts in about
He was
15
the
minutes, and we will be
outsider.
ready.
He was
I'm
not a
streaming
politician. He
C-SPAN
was brought
because
to the country
they will
as the
show it
president because
with
he
no
was going to
commentary and
change
no,
things.
I don't care
He
about
was
nobody's
brought to a
thoughts but
country to
mine. That's why you all are
drain the
here with
swamp
me.
and
So I
to
don't
get
want no
rid of corruption and
commentating from
to
nobody. I don't
make
want to hear
America
nobody
great
from
again.
CNN,
And I don't see what
Fox,
Democrats are so
MSNBC, because they're all
angry about
liars.
making
They all full of shit.
great
So
again, make America great again.
yes, come on
You know, they're
over.
so
Janelle,
against
get
it
your
for some
bingo
reason. I don't
card.
get
Head on
that.
over to
All
YouTube.
right, Glenn there in Union, Kentucky. C-SPAN caught up with
No, it really does. It
people
does.
on the
Thank
streets
you.
about tonight's debate
Thank you. Thank you for
and
the
what they
mic.
wanted to hear from
Appreciate
the candidates. Take a look at some of the
sweet.
answers we got.
You see, when brothers look out for sisters like that, he told me my sound was
Discover the
garbage,
heartbeat
so
of
he got me a new
democracy
name.
with C-SPAN Voices 2024 as we engage
Sisters, I
voters
get that you
ahead of
know
the
I
first
like
debate
that.
between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, asking,
Oh,
what
listen,
issue
I
would you
love
like for
it.
them to
Yes,
address
come
and
on.
why?
Come on, mine will kick in at
Hello,
about
my name is Pregame Flannery. I'm from Sampson,
9:15.
Alabama. My biggest issue this election season is probably the bias in the media. I feel like we don't
Y'all
have
got your
adequate
bingo card?
coverage of
Anybody
both
need me to show the
parties,
bingo
and
card again so they could
you know, we
screenshot it?
just have a very leftist
You gotta do it.
media.
Come on.
Oh, my
YouTube
top
Premium.
issue is women's
First of
rights,
all,
reproductive rights.
all the damn
I
movies.
have a wife.
Shows,
I
everything.
have 2 daughters and 2 sons.
It's just great.
And
It really
the
is.
most important thing for me is to make sure that my daughters are safe, my wife is safe, and every other woman is safe.
What up,
I'm a
Mark?
big
Good to
believer
see you.
in-
Happy you're here.
And not just equal rights, but every woman has a choice.
Okay, you need to see the bingo card. Okay.
The preservation
Yeah, I'm about to
of
show the bingo
democracy.
card again. Make sure that that people got it. Hold on. I'm gonna share this. Hold on, let me make it big. All right, go ahead and capture that, screenshot that. Go ahead. All right. Let's go back. All right.
We can kind of close up
Illegal
the border,
illegals.
keep it open
Shut up.
to people.
I hate these people. Y'all can hear it though. Y'all, you can hear them.
But yeah,
You can hear me.
Corrected. I think.
Yeah, we're good.
It's gonna be
We
a
got
lot more
about
other
14
issues
minutes or so. So
that
just
stem
want to
from
make
that,
sure it's
so
all
hopefully get that
set up.
corrected here soon.
You know, we all here. If you're here,
C-SPAN's Voices 2024.
hit that
Be
like
a part
button
of the
on your way
conversation.
in. If you're watching, hit that like button. Subscribe to us, to me.
And back to your calls
Support.
here as
If you
we
feel like
await the
making
first
a
president,
pregame
the
donation, I
presidential
do
debate.
have,
It's the second of this
my
election
Cash
cycle.
App
It's the
up there,
first
my
between Vice
Venmo.
President Harris
I'll
and the
put the
former
little thing on
President
the bottom. I
Trump, and
know
that
some
is
people that
going to
aren't
get
in the United
underway in
States
less
only have
than
PayPal. So if you
15
want,
minutes.
if you want to make
ABC
a
is the host of
donation
that. We are
to the sister,
simulcasting it
you know,
here
if you want
on
to do that, that'd be
C-SPAN.
nice. You
And
know,
we want to know what you want to
support my
hear
weed habit.
from these two candidates
It ain't
tonight.
cheap.
Marilyn
You
in
know,
Norfolk, Virginia, an
support my internet
independent.
bill. I got to pay
Marilyn,
the
let's hear
internet
from
bill
you.
every month. It's $100.
I would like to hear
You know,
Donald
if you
Trump,
want. Now, I'm
since
not
he
saying that you got
admitted
to. I
that
do
he
this out
did
of love.
lose
But
the
if you want
election
to send a
last week,
sister
I would
some
like to
love,
hear him
I
apologize
would
to
definitely
all
appreciate it.
U.S.
Actually, let me put
citizens.
my phone
I would
on
like to hear
DND.
him
I don't
apologize
even know
for
where my
ruining
phone is.
people's
Oh,
lives
here we go. I'm put my
and
phone on
all
DND.
types of things, losing
Oh,
their
thank you
homes,
so
losing their
much.
jobs, sitting in jail
I see some people sent
because of
some
his
already.
big
I
lies.
appreciate you. Thank you very
Secondly,
much,
I would
y'all.
like to hear him admit, since Kamala Harris is being accused of having bad policies during the last administration and doing all these bad things, I would like Mr. Trump to tell us
Okay.
how much of those things in his
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
he should be congratulated and thank all
My
the
son
things
was
he
like, "Oh, I
did
forgot you're
during
streaming
Donald
tonight."
Trump's
I am streaming
administration.
tonight.
And Donald Trump should stop taking credit for
How
all
y'all
the
doing?
things that
How's
Mike
everybody
Pence
doing?
did.
I'm so happy that
And
you're
the last
here.
thing I'd like to
Oh,
hear
what's the
is I'd
shirt
like
say?
to hear Vice
Let's
President
see. You can
Harris
pull it down.
say, you know, Joe Biden and I have done a lot during this
Jay
administration
Quellen,
during these
Balake,
almost 4 years. We
D
didn't get
Nice,
everything right,
A
but we
Ron,
did the things that we didn't get right. We're working
Smokey.
on, but we should be congratulated, and people should appreciate the things and the good things that we did get.
Oh shit!
Okay,
That should have
Marilyn.
been on the bottom.
Tonight.
All right, Chris in Brunswick, Georgia, Republican. Hey, Chris, just hang with us for a minute. Let's go into the spin
Thank you
room.
so
California
much.
Governor
Thank you for the
Gavin
love. I
Newsom is talking
appreciate
to
you.
reporters.
Not only visited right after October 7th Israel, but also brought a field hospital into Gaza.
Yeah.
I know there's another state that did this.
Yeah,
Breaks my
yeah.
heart. What happened on October 7th? We want these hostages home. We want this war to end. So does Kamala Harris. So does Tim Walz. So does the Biden administration. That every hour of every day are trying to get this war to an end. Donald Trump, You got to give me a break. What's his plan? I guess it's another one of these secret plans. It's an easy
Stephen Gibson's my love language.
Well, look, I'm not going to get into the
It's subordinate and churlish. I'm putting that on the shirt too. I need to put that on the shirt. Insubordinate and churlish. That's what I'm going to do.
We have a
I'm going to sell that shit to you. I better buy it.
For a border wall, 1,500
Oh my
new
God.
border agents, 4,300
Oh my
new
God.
asylum agents.
Everywhere I
100
go
new
when I wear this
judges.
shirt, people, I'm like, I know my people.
Detailed plan
They
that was
crack.
put
People
out,
who laugh at
a
this, I'm like,
bipartisan plan
I
that
know my
President
people.
Biden
We good. We
endorsed,
good.
as well as Vice
I would buy.
President
Yeah,
Harris.
I
Not
think
only
people
did she
would buy
endorse
it.
it, she got a standing ovation at the DNC,
Insubordinate and
embracing
churlish.
it and saying
I think that's
she
what we
will
gonna
promote
do.
it, and she will sign that
All right,
bipartisan
if you
deal.
on
A deal
Instagram, I see
Donald
some
Trump
of y'all are
does not
holding out, and
support.
that's cool.
He's
You can stay over there.
unserious.
That's why I
He
do it on
doesn't
both.
want a border deal. He wants a border
But if you
problem.
come
And I
on
say
over to
this
YouTube,
with an
we got a
expertise
comment
that few
section
have. I have the
that's
largest
a little
land
more
court in the Western
lively
Hemisphere in the
than the
state of
one we have on
California. And I've
Instagram.
had
And
to
the whole
put
point of
394
this
National
is
Guard
to
men
watch it
and women
together
on the
in
border.
community
It's shameful. It's
so that
shameful.
we
He
can
doesn't have
shame
the back
all
of
of
Border
these people
Patrol. He doesn't
together.
support 1,500 new border
So we
agents
can watch
and
this
the
country
investments
fall
to
to the ground
improve the
together.
quality of our border security. And that says, again, everything about Donald Trump and his hypocrisy.
So we can watch them pretend that this is a democracy together. That's why we're here.
Well, she's fierce. She's tough.
India,
I've seen this for
what
decades.
up?
And I also think she's
Good to see
underestimated
you.
in these sessions,
You always
particularly, dare
come
I say,
through.
with men.
Where's Katie's
I've been
ass?
in the rooms. I haven't studied game film. I've been up and close. I've known
Where's
Kamala Harris
Katie's ass?
a
She
decade
late.
before we were both in elected
I
office.
tag Katie
And
on
I've
Threads. Tell her
seen
get her
her
ass over
show
here.
up at these debates at a different level.
Matter
She's
of fact, let me
disciplined.
make sure I send
She
out
is
the
not
link.
going to get off her game. I think it's inconceivable. It's an
Let me
impossible
make
task
sure
for
I
Donald
send
Trump
out the link
not to get off his
for
game.
this last
She will
time
get under
so
his skin.
people can
And by the way, her
join.
name is Kamala
And I'm gonna
Harris,
be like, we are
not Kamala.
live.
And when
Oh
Kamala
yeah,
Harris
that's right, because
shows
I
up,
usually
think
do
she's going
send
to
the
show
link
up at
out
the
on
handshake.
Threads.
And I
Let
think
me
at
make
that
sure that
handshake,
I
you're going to
do
see
that.
something very
Make sure
different
y'all let people
from the
know,
outset of
like
this
wherever you
debate.
on your
About Donald
your
Trump, I
social
would look
media,
out. They've
Facebook,
never met.
Instagram.
He's about to experience something many
Make
of
sure you
us
share
have
the link.
experienced and seen in the American people, and world leaders will see a toughness, a character,
With the
integrity, someone who's
presidential
disciplined,
debate.
and someone
Governor
not only
there, Gavin Newsom, talking to reporters. You can see
All right.
swarmed by the
Let's
media
post
in
that.
the media filing center at the Philadelphia
All right.
Convention
How's
Hall
everybody
there
feeling?
in the city. Hundreds of reporters there ahead
Thank
of
you.
tonight's
Appreciate you.
debate.
I love
We
it. It is a
expect
shit show.
that
It's a complete shit
surrogate
show.
supporters for the former president
Listen,
will be there
I
as
don't
well.
care what
Senator
political
Tom Cotton was
affiliation you
talking to
have.
reporters before.
You're
There's
welcome here. Just
members
so
of
you know
Congress on
that
both
we
sides of the
skew
aisle.
left
They're
of the
supporting their
Democratic Party
candidates
for the
and
most
talking
part,
to
right? And
the
that's not
media.
hard to do
Chris
because the
in
Democratic
Georgia,
Party has been
Republican.
slowly
Hey, Chris,
moving
thanks for hanging
to
on
the
the
right,
line.
all right? But I call
Yes,
us
ma'am.
hashtag actually,
In
progressive
the
because
primaries,
we're
isn't that when
people
we
who,
decide
hey Keisha, good
who
to see you,
is
good
going
to
to
see
be
you,
the
sis.
presidential nominee?
We're people who,
And so your point
we're
is
not
tonight,
fooled by
Chris?
the nonsense. So if you're not comfortable
Kamala Harris wasn't
with
even on the
Vice
docket.
President Harris being critiqued, this
How
might
can
not
she
be
be
the
a
spot for
presidential
you.
nominee?
Do you
We
think that your
critique, we
candidate,
celebrate. Like,
the former
listen, if
president,
Trump
should
says
talk about
something
that
decent,
tonight?
I'm gonna say, oh, that was decent. We
Yes,
don't care. I
definitely.
don't like him.
All right.
I don't have to like him. I think he's a
Ahead
fucking
of
buffoon.
tonight,
But
there
we
are,
over
of
here, we keep it
course,
real over
new
here.
polling
And
out every
we are
week
not,
on this race.
I'm
as
not
we
sponsored by
enter the
anybody.
last
I'm not
weeks
paid
of
by
this election
anyone.
cycle. New York Times, with their
Yes.
latest polling,
Yes.
the headline
Yeah.
is released by
Yeah. The
Siena
celebrity
College, a
worship is out of
national
this world.
poll
I'm over it.
that
I don't
found former
understand like
President Trump
standing
leading the
a
vice president
political
48%
figure like
to
a politician. Like I don't like why would you do that?
among
Like
likely
no,
voters. That caller from Georgia, and
they
we
don't
were
even
just
drop no
showing
hits.
you
Like
from the swing state of Georgia, New York
you ain't
Times
make good
polling.
music.
It
Why
is
why am
neck
I
and neck there.
standing you?
A 1-point
You ain't got no
lead
hair care line.
for
You ain't
Kamala
got no liquor
Harris
line.
against
You ain't got no shoe
Donald
line,
Trump
no
in
clothing line.
Georgia. We'll show you some other swing states
All you do
if
is
we
lie
can
all
here
day. You
before
get votes.
tonight's debate
So
getting underway in
whatever.
just minutes. Susan in New Orleans,
That's
New
okay.
Orleans in Louisiana,
I have a mental
Democratic
image
caller.
of your
Susan.
gray-haired ass smoking some
Good
herb.
evening. Thank you. As
That
we wait for
works.
the hurricane to hit this great state of Louisiana, we're
Oh,
also
also waiting for Kamala Harris to do the same to Donald Trump.
They're
But my
supposed to
question
serve
is this,
us.
and
Like, that's
not
it.
only
Like,
to
we are
you, but
not
to others,
supposed to be
why
here
are the news
worshiping
outlets
no
not
goddamn politicians.
fact-checking
Like, what is the
everything
problem?
Donald Trump says real
Where
time?
did we
I'm
go
really
so
upset about
wrong?
every
Right?
debate that I
These
see that
motherfuckers are
Donald
on
Trump
TikTok.
participates in. He's
making
never
TikToks.
fact-checked, including
Get to work.
how is it possible
Save
that
democracy.
you have January
Democracy
6th
will
that
not be
occurred,
saved
and he wants to
on
pardon
TikTok.
every single
I
person
just want to point that
that
out.
has attacked our Capitol.
Point that out. We got about 5 minutes.
Susan, have you ever gone
That's your
to
last
the Washington
opportunity
Post
to go
fact check?
get your snack,
PolitiFact. Have you ever checked out those
get your
websites?
drink,
Because they
get your
do.
smoke,
Absolutely,
get your
but I want it
chewables,
real time.
get your
I want it
powder,
tonight while he's lying to the
get your
American
spoon to
public
burn your shit.
about gun
Whatever you
regulations
got to
and
do,
being
whatever.
pro-life. You know,
If your
pro-life also
needles,
means
whatever
protecting our
you got to do to
children.
make it through.
Pro-life is having Sandy Hook children
I
that
am
could be
pro drug
graduating
use.
right
I
now.
am.
And these
Oh yes, I
are
thank
so
you. I don't do.
hell-bent
I can't do this
on
without you.
making Donald
I
Trump the
cannot do this
second
without
coming of
you.
Christ. For God's sake,
Oh,
they
see,
need to look at
you
the
in the right
marriages he's
place.
had. They
It's
need
the
to
stuff
look
we
at the
talking about.
mistresses he had,
Capitalism and
the children
democracy
out of
do
wedlock
not
he
mix. They
had,
cannot
and yet they
coexist.
still think of him as
Get
the
the fuck
second
out of
coming
my
of
face.
Christ. I don't know
Exactly.
what's wrong with the Republican
Exactly.
Party. I used to respect George Bush and Reagan. I voted for Reagan. I voted for
Oh, I
McCain.
love it.
What has
I
happened
love
to
it.
the Republican Party that they cannot
I had
have
to decide. I was
spine
like,
to
I
stand
don't
up
want to
to this
go
man?
debate.
So what
You know,
I'm
I want to
hoping
go
to see
host the
tonight
debate,
is
or
that
do I
Donald
host
Trump
this?
will not
And in
only
some
be
ways, this is kind of my
bastardized
protest.
by
So
his own party, but he loses big, and Kamala
5
will
minutes
win.
until scary
Okay,
time. No, that's
Susan,
real. That's
there
what we
in
call it,
New
scary time. It
Orleans.
absolutely is a scary
Now,
time. What
the
the hell is
path
going
to
on?
270,
Hey, everybody on
the
Instagram, it's your
Electoral
last chance
College,
to, well, not your
it
last chance,
means
but, you
that
know,
these
before everything
candidates have
gets
to
settled in,
win
it's
some
much better
crucial
over here on
states. We showed
YouTube.
you Georgia being one of them.
So come
The
on
New York
over,
Times latest
get the
poll with
full
Siena
picture,
College
get
in
the
that
join
state.
the
Take a look
chat.
at
We got 63 in the
Pennsylvania,
chat right
where the
now.
candidates are
Make sure you hit
tonight
that like button.
for
I need
tonight's
somebody, Kia.
debate.
Can you
Here, the vice
periodically
president
remind
again
people
leading
to
by
hit the like
just
button for
1
me?
point. This
That'd be
is
great.
a neck and neck. This is a tie in the swing state of
How are you
Pennsylvania.
49 to 48?
Carter in
Can we
Valley
just talk
City,
about this for
North
like 2
Dakota, and
seconds?
Independent.
Why
Carter,
is
what do
your
you want to
girl
hear
only at
tonight?
49%? She need to
Love
be at
to
like
hear from this
83%.
debate
This
is honestly
motherfucker
an
is a
attack against
clown.
logical fallacies.
He's
Let's
a
look
clown.
at Kamala Harris. Let's
What
look
are we
for policies,
doing?
and let's have her take on Donald Trump's ad hominem and honestly, quite frankly, his red herring attacks against Kamala Harris and his own policy to other people to take off that spotlight. Look at the essence of debate in America and how Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, Joe Biden have taken it away. Full of the judges, and they deserve to be convinced of
I used to
arguments and have
huff
constructive
a
critiques
pine
and
saw.
criticism to them.
I would like
and
do
look
like
who
this.
stripped
I would
that
put like
away.
my hand over it, and I'd be like,
The essence of
I
them,
love the
which is
smell of
honestly
pine saw. I
disgusting.
swear I
So
was
I
a
hope that
disturbed
Kamala
child.
Harris
I really
can get out
was
there and
a
take
very
it head on
disturbed
and be the
child.
person who brings
I
back
don't know
real
why they
debate
let
in
me
America.
out
All
the
right.
house, quite
That's Carter
honestly.
there in North Dakota. Next caller, Tony, comes from Supply, North
I
Carolina.
just admitted that
Republican.
to you all because
Tony,
it's a
before
safe
we hear
space, right?
from
We're
you,
community,
take a
right?
look at the New York Times
Nobody knows.
polling out of your
Nobody
state,
knows.
another battleground state.
Well, I
And
know
it's
because she has no
48
policy. Oh wait, you guys, we forgot to
percent
check
for the vice
real quick
president,
before it starts. We
47%
forgot to check
for the former president. Essentially a tie as
KamalaHarris.com.
well
We do
in
this
North
every
Carolina.
time
Tony,
to
Republican?
see if they've put. Oh,
Yes. Thank you for taking my call.
y'all. They telling you urgent. Chip in before the debate. Do we have policy? Oh, you guys. Oh, we got issues. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Finally, we got some goddamn issues. Took them long enough. Shit. God damn, let's go back. Damn. You know, because every time we got to check and see if they put some policy, they finally got some goddamn policy. This is beautiful.
Before I voted,
Progress.
when the economic report came out,
debate, absolutely.
and it continued to trend down.
They got tired of asking people to get them money with no policy.
yeah,
and that was the
I
biggest
have
weakness, right?
not
All the
yet
people were like, well, she
totally
don't
made
really
up
have
my
much
mind,
policy to stand
even
on.
though I am
So there
a
we go.
Republican. I'm an American first.
So, Tony,
And
what could the vice president
with you.
convince you to vote for her?
That's really it.
And if so,
could.
how?
She could if she shares policy.
Thank you, Kia. Thank you.
All
Thank
of
you.
the
Appreciate you.
stuff that they have been pushing.
Yeah, I have
the
known
liberal
Kia.
agenda.
It's
as
got to
far
be about
as
25 years,
the
right?
Electric vehicles.
It's got to be at least 25
I
years
have
now,
a
right?
brother, and his
Oh,
brother
you think a
has
lot of it is
one,
copy paste from
and
Biden?
he
That makes
could
sense.
fill up
So I was
his
reading this
vehicle
article that was
4
talking about
times
how
a
she just
month
doesn't have time to develop
for what
a
it costs him
policy
to charge
position,
his
and it
vehicle
doesn't make
one
sense for her to try
He said his
to
electric bill is
offer anything
totally
new, because this
electrically
whole thing has been
is
about continuing the
absolutely
Biden-Harris
bankrupting
administration. And
them.
when Biden was running,
And so
that's
pushing
what the
for these
goal was,
policies,
right? So it
uh,
doesn't really make
I
sense to
want to
try to
hear a more
overhaul it,
mainstream
but you had to
policy.
put
Okay, so
something on
Tony,
there. I
do
mean,
you
you know?
do you believe that that New York Times poll that we showed you is
Oh,
accurate then? Essentially a tie
you know
in your
what? I
state?
think you got a point.
I believe so.
I think you got a
There are
point.
very red areas
We
and there
can't
are
dig
very
in too
blue
deep.
areas. And
Yeah,
most
it's
of the blue
Biden-Harris
areas are the
policy. That's
more
right.
heavily
That's what it is. So
populated.
there was really no need for
But
anything new.
I
I think the
do
only
think
thing
North
new that she
Carolina
said was the
is up in the
$6,000
air.
for the
Okay.
new
And
babies, right? Which
Tony,
is a
I
Republican
want
approach
to
to
show you
natal,
and others that
natalism.
it's not just
And
this New
then
York Times poll.
the no
Washington
taxes
Post
on tips,
poll,
which she stole
and
from
this
him, and it's a
tweeted
stupid
out
idea
by
because it's
the
horrible for
Washington
everyone.
Post
All the
reporter,
economists said that
showing that
you can't do it
small
because
changes
people
in their
like me
polling
will
model. North
redesignate
Carolina
my job
moves
and
from
say
a
that I work for
small lead
tips,
from the former
and
president
therefore I'm
to a
not paying
tie,
taxes.
while
So it's not
Pennsylvania
smart. You can't do
tightens a
it.
bit with a few
What up,
close
Instagram? I see more
high-quality
of you are
polls.
joining in
Beyond
as we
that,
get
not
closer.
much movement
This is
going
about to
into
start soon.
tonight's
You
debate.
have time to
So
come on
there are
over
the
to
swing states
YouTube. We
and
got almost
Washington
80 in the
Post
chat over
polling.
here.
We showed you a
So
little
we got
bit
a
from the New York
lively group
Times
coming over
polling
here.
ahead of tonight's debate. Of course, people, the candidates, the
Yeah.
voters, the media
So
will
it's about to
all be
start.
looking at the polls
Get your bingo
post-debate
cards out. Get
as
your
well.
stuff.
Ernest in Georgia, Democratic caller.
Hold on. They said it
Ernest, you
begins
with
in
us?
They do it. They
In
got a little
Georgia, we're listening
countdown
to you.
over here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, what do you want to hear from the candidates tonight?
Yeah, I would like to hear how ex-president
Right.
apologized for
It's not
January
enough.
6th.
It's clearly not enough. She's
Even though he
49%. He's
feels that
48%. I'm not
what
Trump
he
is
did.
not good
All right,
enough.
I'm going to leave
It's
it
just
there.
not.
The ABC debate is beginning.
We
We'll
should
take you there
We
now.
should not have had to bully her to put the
Face
policies
meetings
on the
ever.
website. I don't know
Historic
who's
race for
running the
president
comms over there,
upended
but
just weeks ago. President Biden withdrawing after
should have
his
done a better
last debate.
job.
Donald Trump now up against a new opponent.
The candidates separated by the smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls nationally and in the key
Wait a
battlegrounds,
minute.
including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play.
That's the kinda-
The ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
Here we go, y'all. Here we go. Let's go.
This is an ABC News special, the most consequential
You can hear
moment of
everything,
this
right? Everything is
campaign.
good. Sound is
Kamala
good. You hear
Harris.
me, you hear them. Everything is good. All right. Let's go.
Donald Trump,
We will soon be a great nation again.
face to face, historic. The ABC News presidential debate. Here now,
Let's go.
David Muir
Okay,
and
good,
Lindsay
good.
Davis.
Sound is perfect. Good, good. Everybody got bingo.
Good evening. I'm David
Everybody
Muir.
got
and thank you
bingo.
for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this
Y'all
unprecedented
prefer
race
this
for
one
president.
or this
And
one?
I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be
Side
the
by
most
side?
consequential event of their
better?
campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President
About to be
Biden
a
withdrew from the
goddamn
race on
circus.
July 21st.
I'm just glad you all
Of
know.
course, that decision followed his
Thank you.
debate
Oh,
against
Instagram, they
President
said the
Donald
sound is
Trump in
fabulous. Thank you
June.
very much.
Since
Appreciate
then,
you.
this race has taken on an
This is about to be a
entirely new
goddamn
dynamic.
circus.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate.
I feel
90
the
minutes
edible
with 2
already.
commercial breaks. No topics or questions
That was
have been
fast
shared with the
acting. That was very
campaigns.
concentrated.
The candidates will
I
have 2
needed
minutes
that.
to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be
Biff,
seeing.
Katie.
2 minutes for rebuttals and 1
There we
minute for
go. I said somebody
clarifications or
tag her, tell her to
responses.
get her ass
Their
over here.
microphones
You
will
were-
only be turned on when it's their turn to speak.
Oh, they
no
only-
pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the
Oh,
National
they gonna cut the
Constitution Center.
mics.
This is an
Well,
intimate
that's
setting
boring.
for 2 candidates who
We're not
have
gonna
never
get
met.
no hot
President Trump
mic
won
shit
the
from
coin
Trump.
toss. He chose to deliver the final
I
closing
bet you know
statement
what?
of the
I bet you
evening.
he's going to
Vice
yell
President
when the
Harris left
mic.
at the podium
That's my
to the right.
prediction.
So
At
let's
least
now
once
welcome
he's
the
going to
candidates
yell
to the
while his
stage.
mic
Vice
is off so
President
that he could
Kamala
be
Harris
heard.
and
88 in
President
the chat.
Donald
Let's
Trump.
get those likes up, please. Let's get those likes up. Oh, here we go. Why is she wearing a dark color? She went over to. Ooh, already he wasn't even trying to shake her hand. It's already
Welcome to
started.
you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number
she
one
wearing
issue,
black?
and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country.
that black
Vice
is
President
really
Harris,
good.
you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle class kid.
Middle class.
And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America.
Middle class, you got to
I
drink.
believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000,
$6,000 for the kid. I should have put that on the
child
damn
tax
bingo
credit that
card.
we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there's a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to startup small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy.
They gotta
My opponent,
be
on the other
making
hand, his plan
$50,000 too.
is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations,
What was the
which will
question?
result
Oh,
in
she's
$5
not
trillion
answering the
to
question.
America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax
That
on
motherfucker is
everyday goods
fried
that
right
you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year.
You missed her
Because
not
of his
answering this damn
policies and his
question.
ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that.
Oh,
we're doing
God.
tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've
That's
done for
giraffe
the world.
pussy.
And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had
What the
tariffs
fuck
and
are
yet
they
I had
talking?
inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history.
You're
We were
mishandling of
at
COVID.
21%, but that's being generous because many things
Nobody
are 50,
knows what he's
60,
saying.
70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago.
In her head.
This has
Did she
been
roll her
a
eyes yet? Because
disaster
that's
for
on
people,
bingo.
for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and
is he
Hispanics,
talking about?
and also unions. Unions
She's
are gonna
shaking
be
her head. I
affected
want
very
her to
soon.
roll her eyes
And you
real
see what's
quick.
happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the
I
United
put that
States.
in the middle
you
of
look
the
at
board for a reason.
Springfield, Ohio.
103
you
in
look
the
at
chat.
Aurora
Hit that like button.
in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality.
Wow!
And we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll
He's
do
lying.
it again and even better.
He's
We are
lying
going to
through
get
his
to
teeth.
immigration and
She
border
just, she
security
almost
during
rolled her
this
eyes.
debate,
She
but,
almost rolled her
I
eyes.
would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump
Nobody
left
knows.
us.
That's going to be the
Donald
question
Trump
of the night.
left us the
Nobody fucking
worst
knows.
unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century.
No, she's right.
Donald Trump left
She's right.
us the worst attack on our democracy
Oh, we don't have a
since
democracy,
the
but
Civil
okay.
War.
Wow.
And what we have done is clean up Donald
He doesn't
Trump's
even know
mess.
when the Civil War
What we
happened.
have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American
what?
people. But I'm going to tell you
Oh,
all in this
messy.
debate tonight, you're going to hear
Messy.
from the same old tired playbook.
Can't take y'all
A bunch of
nowhere.
lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan
I just want
called
one of
Project
them to
2025
talk about the
that
economy
the former
and
president
answer the goddamn
intends on
question.
implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas. I guess some good, some bad. But it makes
She
no
really,
difference.
you know
I have
what? I
nothing
have
to
a
do.
feeling at
Everybody
some
knows I'm an
point,
open book.
because I heard she
Everybody
has a
knows
potty
what I'm gonna
mouth.
do. Cut taxes
She's
very
going to either
substantially
call him a
and create
nigga
a
or a
great economy
motherfucker. At
like I
some
did
point,
before.
it's going to come out.
We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a
Also looks like she
pandemic.
smokes.
And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died. Has there been anything like it? We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We
Unfortunately,
handed them
no,
over
I should
a
have.
country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back.
Y'all, we
and
only
it
a few
bounced
minutes
back and
in.
it went to their benefit.
It's only the
But
first
I was the
question.
one
I
that
don't know if
created
I'm
them.
gonna
They
make
know
it.
it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
The entire world.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the
Yeah,
economy.
we are.
What
We're still
the
on the
Wharton
first
School
fucking
has
question.
said is Donald Trump's plan would actually
Somebody said
explode
stroke
the
break.
deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase
You have to
inflation
do
and
it.
by the middle
We
of
have to
next
do it
year
together.
would invite a recession.
We are going to make it
You just have to
through
look
this night.
at where we are and where we stand on the
Together.
issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself
It's
than he is
smart
in
for
looking
her to
out for you.
pivot to talking to people.
They gave her that to say.
He yelled over
I
it.
went to the Wharton School of Finance, and
He did go
many
to
of those
Wharton.
professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan.
No,
It's
they
a great
don't.
plan. It's a
They
plan
don't,
that's going to
actually.
bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
She didn't have one
Mr.
before.
President, I do want
He's
to drill
not
down on
lying.
something
He
you
probably
both
didn't see
brought
the
up.
website
The
today.
Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know,
Y'all
many
better get
economists
your
say that
Temu
with
and
tariffs at that
Shein
level, costs are then passed on to the
now.
consumer. Vice President Harris
price
has
is going
argued
up.
it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only
I
president
know he
ever.
didn't say
China
that
was
he went
paying
to
us
the Wharton School of
hundreds
Finance, which
billions
is
of
actually
dollars,
just
and so
Wharton.
were
But
other countries.
and then
you
he's
know,
saying
if
that
she
we're
doesn't
not going
like
to have to
them,
pay for
they should
that.
have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5
why
years
am I
now
here? I don't-
under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars,
Are the
hundreds
tariffs
of
in the room
billions of
with us?
dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country
She
because
can't
I've
hide
never
it.
seen
She
a worse
can't
period
hide
of
it.
time. People can't go out and buy cereal or
She's on the
bacon
cusp
or
of
eggs or
Scorpio, so
anything else.
she's like got that
The
Mars
people
leaning
of our
into her. She
country
can't help
are
it.
absolutely dying with what they've done. They've
She's like,
destroyed
"You
the
dumb
economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep
Yeah.
a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration
I forgot.
resulted
Let's
in
be
a trade
clear. Shit.
deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires,
I'm gonna let her
focusing
finish.
on relationships with our
But
allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so
I'm
that
gonna let
we
her
win
finish.
the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to
What
do
does this
to
have to do with
support
tariffs?
America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what
What
Donald
is
Trump
happening
did,
here?
let's talk about this, with COVID, is he
Now
actually
we're talking about
thanked
COVID
President
again.
Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at
What
his
does this
tweet.
have to do with
Thank you,
tariffs?
President Xi, exclamation point.
What the
When we
fuck does
know
this have
that
to
Xi
do with
was
the tariffs?
responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
I just want to remind
First of
everybody
all, they
that
bought
the
the
United
chips
States is in
from
competition with
Taiwan. We
China
hardly
to
make chips anymore because
recolonize
of
Africa again, and that's the only reason
philosophies
why
like they
they
have
care
and
about China.
policies like
Okay.
they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window.
He's
She's
right.
going to my philosophy now. In fact,
He's
I was
right.
going to send her a MAGA hat.
He's right.
She's gone to my philosophy.
He's
But
not lying.
if she ever got elected, she'd change it.
She changed
And
a lot of her
it will
views.
be the end of our country.
That
She's a
disastrous
Marxist.
interview
Everybody
that we
knows she's a
saw, they called
Marxist.
her out
Her
on all of
father's
it.
a Marxist professor in
She's not a
economics,
Marxist.
and he taught her well.
She's
But
not a
when
Marxist.
you
Look
look
at
at
her.
what she's
Oh,
done
she's
to
mad.
our
She's hot.
country, and when you
She's
look
hot
at
right
these
now.
millions and millions
He's
of
saying,
people that are pouring
"Nigga,
into our country monthly,
I
where it's, I
know."
believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're
Marxist.
doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she
Is the
has
Marxist in the room with
destroyed
us?
our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
Oh,
President
God.
Trump. Thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade last year.
Oh,
You
Roe v.
said
Wade.
that you were
Roe v.
proud to
Wade.
be the most pro-life president in
He's going to talk
American
about free
history.
IVF.
Then
Get
last
ready. Get
month,
ready.
you said that your administration
Get
would be
ready.
great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was
we go.
too
Here we
short.
go.
And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next
Instagram,
day,
come on
you
over to
reversed
YouTube. We
course
got about
and said you would vote to
119 in
support
the
the
chat. Come
6-week
on and
ban.
join us over here.
Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times.
She looked good.
Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have,
No,
and you
we
can look
don't.
at the governor
they
of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not
There's
the
no such
current governor
thing.
is doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do
He
with the baby.
keeps
In other
saying
words,
this, and
we'll
it's not
execute the
true. It's
baby. And
nonsense.
that's why I did that.
Was that an
because
eye roll?
that
Yes, that was an eye
predominates,
roll.
because
It
they're
counts.
radical. The
It
Democrats
counts.
are
She rolled her
radical in
eyes.
that.
Count.
And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country,
wow.
because he is
What?
really
Is Coach
out of it.
Walls catching
But her
strays?
vice
He's not even
presidential
here.
pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years, they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states.
What
and
is he
through
talking
the
about?
genius and heart and strength of 6
We over here
Supreme
fact
Court
checking.
justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also.
God.
85% of
Oh,
Republicans do. Exceptions, very important.
Listen.
But we were able to get
Listen.
it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this
You know
is
what?
an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years.
No, he
Every
doesn't.
legal scholar,
Aside
every
from the ones he
Democrat,
probably
every
forced women to
Republican,
have, no, he
liberal,
doesn't.
conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. And now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal.
That's what I got y'all
Kansas,
for.
the vote was somewhat
You
liberal,
all are gonna
much more
fact
liberal
check
than
for
people
me.
would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's
on.
born. Madam Vice President, I want to get
Yes.
your response to President Trump.
Well, as I
sis.
said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are
Somebody's on
Trump
Instagram said
abortion
finally a fact
bans,
check. Exactly.
which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government and Donald Trump certainly should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around
wish she
our
would just say
country.
people.
You want
That
to
would just
talk about
do
this
it
is
for
what
me.
people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She
Yeah.
didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of
He
incest
checked out like
being forced
a
to
minute
carry a
ago. Like he's
pregnancy
not
to
even
term?
listening to her.
They don't
Everybody
want
knows
that.
this, right? He's not listening to
And
anything
I
that she's
pledge
saying.
to
He
you,
doesn't hear
when
anything
Congress
that she's
passes a
saying.
bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But
Okay, there she goes with the
understand,
give me
if
pass me a
Donald
bill.
Trump
Did I
were
put
to
that
be
on there? No.
reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American
checked
people
out.
believe
She's talking too much.
that certain
You don't care?
freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's
She's a
own
woman and
body,
she's talking. He does not
should
care.
not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else.
Well,
and
he's
every
flip-flopping
legal
now because he
scholar
did say
wanted
that
it
he
to
was
be
going to do
brought
a
back
ban.
into the states.
And
the
now, and
states
then
are
he's
voting,
changing his
and it may
narrative.
take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart. And they've wanted it back in
That's
the
what she
states.
needs to
And
do
I did
every single
something that
time.
nobody thought was
Every
possible.
single time.
The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now
Oh,
been
he
taken
just
over
said
by
he's
the
not in
states.
favor
Would
of
you
an
veto
abortion
a
ban.
national abortion ban if it
Evangelicals
have
are
to,
done.
because,
They're
again,
losing it
it's
right
two
now.
things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote.
He's correct.
Especially now with the
It's correct.
50-50.
He's correct.
and essentially 50-50
She's
in
the
both
tiebreaker, and
Senate
he's
and the
correct.
House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't
She's
get
not
the
gonna
vote.
get
She
the
won't
vote.
even come close to it.
It's
So
not
it's
gonna
just
come-
talk. You
yeah,
know what it
he's
reminds
right.
me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students
This is
got
an underrated comment.
taunted with this whole thing about
If I
this
get
whole
it.
idea. And how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the
No,
millions
they
and
are.
millions of people that had to pay off their student loans.
They are.
They didn't
They're
get
not.
it
They're
for
not going
free.
to be happy
But
with
they
that.
were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or
Yes.
no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with JD. In all fairness, JD And I don't mind if he has
Throw
a
him under the
certain view,
bus.
but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can
did.
never get this approved. So it doesn't
They
matter
did.
what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time
Y'all
to
are
respond, but I do
messy
want to ask,
people.
would you
I don't
support any
understand.
restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
He is detached.
I
Somebody on
absolutely
Instagram said he's
support
detaching
reinstating the protections of Roe v.
from
Wade. And
JD,
as
throwing
you
his ass under the
rightly
bus.
mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and in asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's
people.
abortion ban.
Say people.
Couples who
That would get you
pray
more votes.
and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments.
Oh, we're coming.
What is
We're
happening
coming.
in our country?
It's going to say free.
Working people,
It's gonna say
working
free.
women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through
It's coming.
is unconscionable.
He's going to talk about
And the
free IVF.
people
He's
of
not
America
listening to
have
anything
not,
she's
the
saying. You
majority
see
of
him?
Americans believe in a woman's right to make
He's like,
decisions
okay, I'm
about
back.
her own body.
Oof.
And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a
Look at her.
leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact,
What
when
has
they
he
got a
led?
very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later
wait.
voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing,
Say it. I got a
you
bingo
should ask,
card.
will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do
Oh,
that?
she's fed up.
Why don't you ask her that
Why
question?
don't you
That's
answer
the
the
problem.
question? Would you
Because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer the
Wade,
question.
you
Would you
could
veto?
do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month,
She's
the
letting
9th
him
month,
get to her, and this is not
probably after
good.
birth. Just look at the governor, former
She's letting him
governor
get to
of
her.
Virginia.
Like, this is
the
not what she
governor
needs
of
to do.
Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and
Oh.
border security. We know it's an issue that's important to
Thank you for the
Republicans,
Venmos,
Democrats,
y'all.
voters across
I know
the
white
board,
people use
in this
Venmo and black
country.
people use
Vice
Cash App,
President Harris,
and
you were
Canadians
tasked
use
by
PayPal,
President
so thank
Biden
you
with
very
getting
much.
to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings
None.
reached a record high
Oh, here
in
we
the
go.
Biden
We
administration.
might
This
get a
past
legal
June,
alien.
President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have
Not.
dropped
She's
significantly.
right on that border of
But my question to
Scorpio,
you
and
tonight is
we're
why
ruled
did
by
the
Mars. We
administration wait
can't.
until
We
6
can't.
months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this
Ow.
stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for
Wait.
the trafficking of guns,
Wait.
drugs,
Attorney
and human
General.
beings. And let me say
coming.
that the United States
coming.
Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now.
And it's working. He knows
overtime,
exactly
trying
what
to
he's
do their
doing, and
job.
she's falling for
It
it.
would have allowed us
He did it to
stem
Hillary.
the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill
Which comes from China.
would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill?
Guns,
Donald
drugs, and
Trump
human
got on the
beings.
phone,
Human beings
called up
last.
some folks in Congress
Who
and
taught her
said,
that?
kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand
It comes from China.
this
Like, I want them to
comes
stop.
at a time
It's not coming
where
from the southern
people
border.
of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the
Clock it.
problems at hand.
Clock
But what we
it.
have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies. Because it's a really interesting thing to watch.
Oh, what the fuck is she
You will
talking
see during
about?
the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter.
What the fuck is she talking
He will
about?
talk about windmills cause cancer.
What does this have
And
to
what
do
you
with the
will also
border?
notice
She's
is that people
deflecting.
start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and
She's,
boredom.
what is she doing?
And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk
This
about
is stupid.
you. You will not hear
This
him
is
talk about your
stupid.
needs, your dreams, and your desires.
Why is she talking about
And
his
I'll tell
rallies
you,
when
I
the
believe
question is
you
about the border?
deserve a
Because
president
the
who actually
Democrats
puts
have
you
taken
first, and I
on
pledge to
a
you that I will.
Republican
Vice President
border
Harris, thank you.
policy.
President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well,
The
I would
last
like to
four
respond.
Let me just
presidents,
ask,
the
though, why
Democrats
did
have
you try to
deported more
kill that
people
bill,
than the
and successfully
Republicans.
so?
That's
That
why
would have
she's
put thousands of
deflecting.
additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go.
Oh
And
my
the people that do
God.
go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because
You know
people
what?
want to take their country
what?
back. Our country
This
is
is only
being
question
lost. We're a
3.
failing nation. And
Oh,
it
God.
happened 3.5 years
God.
ago. And
Oh, God.
what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or
because
Springfield.
that's
A
what he
lot of towns
does.
don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield,
She
they're
did, and
eating
it's
the
so
dogs, the
stupid
people
because
that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating
cats.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening
He's talking
in our
about
country.
Haitians.
And it's a shame. As
Okay.
far as rallies
Okay.
are concerned,
Okay.
as far as
Okay.
the reason they go is they like what I say. They want
Yeah.
to bring our country
No.
back. They want to make America great
No.
again. It's a very simple phrase. Make
No.
America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she
Okay.
becomes president, this
Okay.
country doesn't have a chance of success.
No,
Not
this
only
is
success, will end up being
no.
Venezuela
It should have
on
been. It should have
steroids.
been.
I just
I'm
want to
so
clarify here.
sorry
You bring up Springfield,
because the Democrats
Ohio,
have been
and
deporting the
ABC News
Haitians
did reach out to
since
the city
like
manager there.
March and
He told
April.
us there have
So
been
what
no
is he
credible
talking
reports of
about?
specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the
Fact
immigrant
check. There we
community.
go.
Well,
All
I've seen
this.
people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
The people on
this is a
television say
clear.
my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe
What?
that's a good
Yeah.
thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But the
television.
people are
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of
I'm
it.
glad they're fact checking because
Talk
what?
about extreme. You know,
She's
this
flustered,
is,
and
I
I
think,
don't.
one of
She
the
needs to get
reasons
it
why
together.
in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney,
Well,
and
that's because
John
she's a black
McCain,
woman.
including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has
He's talking
contempt for
over
the
the mic.
Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and
Right. This is
unfit.
what I'm trying to figure
His
out. Like, why
former
is she letting him
Secretary
get
of
to her?
Defense has said the
Part of her
nation, the
debate
republic,
training
would
should have
never
been like, don't
survive
fucking listen to
another
anything he's saying.
Trump
You focus and keep
term.
talking to the audience like
And
you
when we
started
listen
and
to
get your
this kind of
policies and your
rhetoric,
plans out.
when the
Fuck
issues
him.
that affect the American people are not being
Well,
addressed,
there's that.
I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll
She's
give you a
running
quick
on
minute to respond.
Republican policies.
Thank you. Because when I hear that, see, I'm a
Somebody
different
said
kind
her
of a
dry mouth
person.
is giving
I
me
fired
anxiety. It is
most of
kinda
those
dry.
people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired
Right.
one person.
That's the
They
thing. She
didn't fire
shouldn't be.
anybody
Fuck
having to
him.
do with
Fuck him.
Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire them. And you take a guy like
I don't get
Esper. He was no
get
good.
it.
I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job and they never fire anybody. Look
Right.
at the
The
economy.
Dems are
Look,
terrible
look
with
at the
immigration
inflation.
as well.
They didn't fire any
Well,
of
now
their
we're back to
economists. They have the
inflation.
same
Okay.
people. That's a good way
Woo,
not
what
to
y'all have
have
for
books
dinner
written
today?
about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about
Like,
earlier, so let's get back to your deportation.
he lost a lot of the military
proposal
support
that the
because of
vice
that,
president
as
has
he should
reacted to
have.
as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out
There
of
we
control,
go.
you'd have no problem using the
With
U.S.
local
military.
police, yes.
You
With
also
local
said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you
Y'all
believe
had
that
some
number
good
is
food.
much higher. Take us through
didn't
this.
eat
What does
dinner.
this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them.
Patty with cheese.
They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told
She
by
has
their
to
countries
mention
like
his
Venezuela, don't ever
34
come back
count
or we're going to kill
conviction.
you. Do you know that crime
And they probably
in
told her
Venezuela
not to, but she
and crime
has
in
to.
countries all over the world
She
is way
has
down?
to.
You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country.
And that's why we
Millions
watch
of
this
people
together. That's
let
why I
in.
call it
And all
political
over the
theater
world,
with Dr.
crime is
T. It's
down
a
all
fucking
over the
shit
world
show.
except
It's a
here.
circus.
Crime here is up and through the roof.
They're both
despite
full of
their
shit.
fraudulent statements that they made. Crime in this country is through the roof.
He's
and
not
we have a new
answering the
form of
question.
crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening
Where's the
at
money
levels that
coming
nobody
from?
thought possible.
How are
President
you
Trump,
going
as
to
you know,
deport
the FBI
them? Are they
says
flying them
overall
out?
violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI
fact check.
they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted.
Thank you.
For
you.
national security
Thank
crimes,
you.
economic crimes,
That's right.
election interference,
Right.
has been found liable
Dig
for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is
how
important
you
about
fucking do
respect
that.
for the rule
Shit.
of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts.
There you go.
So
There
let's
you
talk about
go.
what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we
I
need
think
to
she had
do
to swallow a
about
little
the
bit,
housing shortage, which
fall
I
back
have a
and say,
plan
no,
for.
I got
Address
this.
what we must do to support our small
There we go.
businesses.
Talk to the
Address
people.
bringing down the price of groceries.
Talk directly.
But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases
on.
was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and
Why it's
Fani
not
Willis
showing?
to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those
Why it's not
cases.
showing?
And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're
I
the
don't know
ones
why
that
it's not showing,
made
y'all. I'm
them
sorry.
go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened
Well,
in this
wasn't
country.
it one of his
They
judges that
used
threw
it
it out?
to try and
Oh,
win
no.
an election.
President
They're
Trump-
fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would
did say that.
weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is
Why
not
is he
going to stop
pursing
him.
his lips?
It's up to the American people
Vice
to
President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
He's talking over.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized.
Why are they
I
turning his
probably
mic on?
took a bullet to the head because of the things that they
A
say
bullet
about
to the
me.
head?
They talk
My
about
nigga.
democracy. I'm a threat to democracy.
Look
They're
at his
the
ear.
threat to democracy.
Now
With
it's a bullet
fake
to the head?
Russia investigation
We do have a lot to
that
get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted
Fracking.
mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every
She
point
keeps
that
saying
you've
my
made. But in
values haven't
particular, let's
changed.
talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact,
You
I
said
was
you wanted
the
to.
tie-breaking vote on the Inflation
You were
Reduction
committed to it
Act,
before.
which opened new leases for fracking.
You flipped on that.
My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid,
Middle-class kid.
hardworking mother
Yep.
who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The
'Cause she made a
values
lot
I
of
bring
money.
to the importance of
She's a
home ownership, knowing
biochemist.
not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times,
Ooh.
is a value that I bring to my work
She
to say
said,
we are going
"You
to
can't handle
work with
money."
the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes,
Somebody
increase
got
by 3
bingo.
million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather.
What
And
are
my
we-
focus then
what
on
does sex-
protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value
I'm sorry.
that is deeply
What does
grounded in
sexual
the
assault have to do
importance
with
of
fracking?
standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not
I don't know.
changed. And what is
don't
important is
know.
that there is a president who
I don't
actually brings
understand.
values and a perspective that is
It's
about
a very
lifting
weird
people
pivot.
up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years.
He's right.
Defund the police. She's been against
No,
that
she never said
forever.
that.
She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like,
Fucking
she was
circus.
big on defund the police.
That's
In
right.
Minnesota,
I
she
wish
went
she
out.
was.
Wait a minute, I'm talking now.
Ooh!
If you don't mind, please.
I'm speaking.
Does that sound familiar?
Yes. Clock it.
She went out.
Clock it.
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do
Exactly. She's a
transgender
fucking cop.
operations on
Okay.
illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that
She's
would do
not.
this. She wants to
Call her a
confiscate your
Marxist.
guns,
Somebody's gotta
and
get
she will
bingo.
never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing so important, in my opinion.
So now he's leaning into
So
this
I
idea
got
that
the
a
oil
lot of his
business going
followers
like
have,
nobody has ever
that
done
she's
before.
lying to
They took,
appeal
when
to
they
them,
took over,
and that when she
they
gets
got
in
rid of it,
office,
started getting
she's
rid
going
of
to
it,
flip and
and
become
the
this like
prices were
radical
going
black
up
Marxist
the roof.
feminist type
They
person.
immediately
That's
let
what they're
these guys
pushing.
go to where they were.
That's what they're
I
afraid
would
of.
have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar.
Somebody's on
but they
Instagram said
take
being slightly left or far right is not
400,
leftist.
500
Exactly.
acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get to.
environment, as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our
January
democracy
6th.
and the role of a
January
president
6th.
in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under
Here we
attack.
go.
Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out
No, it
tweets,
is.
but it was
It
more
is.
than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go
Me
home.
neither. I'm
Is there
actually about to
anything
re-up.
you regret about what you did on that
I'll
day?
be right back, y'all.
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning,
She's not a
"Oh, I'm
border
surprised
czar.
you're not talking about the border yet." That's because
Obama
she
was a
knows
border
what a
czar.
bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me
But
just
when
ask
are
you-
those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold.
Now he's
on
telling them what
television.
questions
It's a
to
very simple
ask.
question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that
Had
other
nothing
than
to
they
do
asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington,
God damn
D.C.,
it.
and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know.
Anybody
I
got
said,
plans
you
for the
know,
weekend?
this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to
What are
call
y'all
it.
doing?
And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others.
He's
I
really
said,
holding out.
I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me.
There
It
is a
was
thing.
just
Trump
2
avoids
weeks ago.
answering
Her
the
daughter
question
has
is
a
on the
tape of
bingo
her
card.
saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
Oh, that's going to
I
be
was at the
fun.
Capitol
I'm
on
missing No
January 6th.
Madness Fest.
I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there.
What?
And on that
Say
day,
I was Attorney
the
General.
President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand,
They're
the
not mutant
former
mics.
president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that
Right,
reason.
because they're not mutant mics.
But this is not an
So,
isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville,
oh,
where there was
she
a mob
said.
of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate.
Yep.
And what did the president then at the time
Go
say?
for it.
There were
There
fine people on each
on
side.
both sides. Both
Let's
sides.
remember
Yes.
that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by.
Shout out to everybody who is
So
raw
for
dogging this.
everyone
Like,
watching who
y'all are the
remembers
real
what January
MVPs.
6th was,
I don't know how you do it.
I say we don't have to go back. Let's
Me
not
too.
go back. We're not going
She's not the
back.
best public
It's
speaker.
time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking
Instagram, we
the
got 35 of
foundations of our
y'all over
democracy
there.
because you
If-
don't like
on
the outcome.
YouTube, we
And
got
be clear
148.
on
Come
that
on over
point.
to YouTube.
Donald Trump, the candidate,
Join us over here
has
in the
said in
chat.
this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the
She
past.
wants to remind
just
people that
follow up
she's the
here.
top cop because that's what they
It was
want.
a different
They
term,
want the
and it
Dems
was a
to be
term
tougher on
that
crime.
related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse,
Right.
all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was
I'm here for the
debunked in
people.
almost every
I'm here
newspaper,
for the people.
but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous.
Oh,
Go
God.
down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal.
Should've made it worth
if
it.
They
Y'all
do
are
that. The
messy.
border is closed.
I got the
Those people are
messiest
killing
chat. I
many
swear I
people,
do.
unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in.
They've been trying to
Mr.
make it
President,
seem
for
like
3.5
she's been
years
controlling
after, you lost the
Biden like
2020
weekend at
election. You
Bernie's.
repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won
Here
in
we
a
go. Here we
landslide.
go.
In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say that.
sarcastically.
But
You know
those-
that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically.
Oh, now it was
Look,
sarcasm. Okay.
There's so much
Well,
proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they
Oh,
should have sent it
God.
back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got
I'm
in
sorry, Hillary
2016,
Clinton got more
you
votes
can't be
than you.
beaten. The election,
3 million
people
more
should
votes than
never
you.
be thinking about it. An election is fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are
We have
bad.
borders.
And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't
Oh.
even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are
Now
trying
he's
to get
talking
them to vote.
about
And that's
people
why they're
speaking
allowing them
English.
to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No judge
Republican,
looked at it.
and said there
They
was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing.
Stop
A
letting him talk.
technicality. Can you
Turn his
imagine
mic
a
off.
system
What
where
the
a
fuck?
person in an election doesn't have standing?
The
president
moderators are
of the
losing
United
this.
States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you do a special on it. I'll show you
They need it for the
Georgia, and I'll
ratings. They
show
know
you
this is a circus.
Wisconsin,
They're
and I'll
not
show
gonna
you
turn his mic off.
Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics.
And they won't
but you
turn
know
it off
what?
because
That
then
doesn't
all he'll
matter,
do is spend
because
the
we have
next
to
week
solve the
talking
problem
about
that
how
we
they
have right now.
silenced
That's
him.
old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
No, it
Mr.
really
President,
is.
thank
It really
you.
is.
Vice
And
President
she's just
Harris,
standing
you
there.
heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law,
They're
which
in
will
Philly.
include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people.
Oh.
So let's be clear about that.
You're using
And
his shit
clearly
against
he is
him.
having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot
she's a
afford to have
therapist.
a president of the United States who attempts, as he
becoming a
did in the
therapist.
past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as vice
It
president of the
did.
United
It got
States.
to him.
And world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace.
Oh,
And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we not have in the candidate to my right the temperament
ooh,
or the ability to not be confused
ooh,
about fact.
ooh.
That's deeply troubling, and the
Ooh.
American people deserve better.
25th
I'll give you
Amendment.
1 minute to respond.
Let's go.
Mr.
Let's
Let
go.
me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person,
Ooh.
smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China
Hungary's
was
like, now
afraid,
why am
and
I
I don't
in
like
it?
to use the word afraid,
Why
but I'm
am
just
I in
quoting
it?
him. China was afraid
Hungary's
of him.
catching
North Korea
strays.
was afraid of him. Look at
Prime
what's
Minister
going
of
on with
Hungary
North
just
Korea,
caught
by
a
the way.
stray.
He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running
for real.
instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out
What
of
was
office.
the question?
And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But
Mr.
he
President.
got 14 million votes.
Oh!
They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran,
Oh my God.
she was the first one to leave because
my
she
God.
failed. And now she's running.
my God.
I don't understand it, but
Mr.
I'm
President,
okay with it
Mr.
because
President, your time
I
is up.
think we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel-Hamas war and the
Oh, here we
hostages
go.
who are still being held,
Here we go.
Americans among them. Vice President
Palestinians,
Harris, in December,
hostage
you
deal,
said, quote,
those are on the
Israel has a
card.
right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages
they mentioned the
remain.
Palestinians.
Just last
Had to
week,
take a
Prime
drink.
Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you
Clock
do it?
it. Clock it.
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis.
Listen
Many
to the
of
language.
them young people who were
Listen to the
simply
language.
attending a concert.
Is she going to say
Women were
slaughtered when it comes to
horribly
Palestinians?
raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. because it is also true far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed.
Have been killed, not
Children,
slaughtered,
mothers.
just killed.
What we know is that
Okay.
this war must end.
Okay.
It must end immediately. And the way it will
must
end
win.
is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out.
We need a hostage
And
deal.
so we will
We're just
continue
gonna claim
to
that
work
for the
around the
bingo.
clock on that.
Hostage
Work
deal.
around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and an equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you
He's not
always,
listening to her.
I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state
bingo.
solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever. I know Putin very well.
Why is
would
he
have never,
going to
there was no
Russia? They're
threat
talking
of it either,
about
by the way, for
Israel.
4 years. Have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up. Far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important
She
speech.
met with
She
him
refused to be
privately.
there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I
She met with
believe that Israel
Netanyahu.
will not exist within 2 years
Oh,
from
you
now.
said
And I've
it.
been
You
pretty
said
good at
it.
predictions,
You
and I
said
hope
it.
I'm wrong about that one.
You called it.
She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they
was
took off all
Iran
the
ever
sanctions
broke?
that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true.
She has
have
pledged
my
allegiance to
entire
them
career and life
since her life.
supported
Exactly.
Israel and the Israeli
Exactly.
people. He knows that.
Your whole life
He's
you have
trying to
supported
again
Israel.
divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day
It's
one,
not.
according to himself.
It's not.
It is well known
She's flustered. I
that
want her to
he
calm
said
down.
of Putin
He's a
that
bum.
he
Don't
can
let him
do
get to
whatever the hell
you.
he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again
Well,
because
yeah,
they're
we
so
know.
clear. They
Mhm.
can manipulate you with
Okay.
flattery and favors.
Go
And
ahead.
that is why
Somebody said her voice is starting to
so
quiver. No,
many
she's totally
military
worked up.
leaders who you
She's
have worked
flustered,
with
and I
have
don't know
told
why.
me
You're better
you
than
are a
this.
disgrace.
Ooh.
That is why we understand that
Ooh.
we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
And she's the one that
He don't
caused
give
it.
a fuck about
That's
him,
weak
Mike.
on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it. because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going
What
to
does the
Germany and all
Keystone
over Europe?
Pipeline have to do with the
Because they're
Israeli?
weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate.
All
from
right,
the
y'all.
National Constitution
Quick break,
Center
quick
right
break.
here in Philadelphia.
Quick break. Quick break. Listen. All right. All right. All right.
The ABC.
All right. Okay. I'm going to go back, but let's just settle in real quick. First of all, if you're on Instagram, it's 45 of you over there. We are over here on YouTube. There's almost 160 of us over here. Join us over here. You can watch wherever you want. That's why I'm streaming on both. I appreciate you. If you are enjoying this and you're having a good time in this community and you want to support my work and me continuing to do this and all those things, definitely hit the Cash App, Fem Jones, the Venmo, Fem Jones. My PayPal is scrolling on the bottom. I really appreciate those of you that have contributed and supported this. As Kia says, hit that like button and subscribe. Please, please, please take the opportunity to hit the like button. That lets YouTube know that we are here and that people want to watch this stuff, and it helps me get monetized and all that stuff. I'm not monetized yet on YouTube. Go get something. Y'all, this is the halfway point, I think. Go get something. Okay? We are not going to be able to do this without each other. All right? We are here. Are they back? No, they're still on commercial. Let me skip that. All right, we're back. Hold on. I think. Yeah. No, they're not back yet. Anyway, what are y'all thinking? It is painful. It is very painful. Here's the thing. Here's what I have an issue with. One, her job right now is to show the country that she is even tempered, right? Because they have the stereotypes about women being too emotional. She needs to show that she's even tempered. She needs to show that she has policies that she can stick with. She needs to show that she can answer the questions. We know he's not going to answer the question. She needs to answer the questions. I like when she's looking directly at the camera and she's addressing people and saying, "This is what I'm going to do for you, American people. I'm not thinking about him. He's over there. Here's what I'm going to talk to you," because many of you, I have not had the opportunity to do that. That's what I need her to do. And she's not doing it. Yeah, baby. Thank you. Thank you. Get you a son like me. Get you a son like me. I said, please bring my liquor. Remember that meme with what's her name? Sarah Lee, and she was like, 2 shots of vodka. They're not back yet. It's still intermission. You said she does have moments when she deepens her voice and is less nasally and she's talking more steady. Yeah, she needs to do that. Just focus, speak clearly, speak steadily. Like, we don't have to worry about any of that. All right, here we go. Let's go back. They're not back on yet. They're still taking a break. 'Cause both of them are old and they need to sit down. I know their feet hurt. They've been standing there for about an hour. So I asked him to bring it. He was like, "Damn, the debate is getting to you like that." Yeah, I want her to chill. I want her to chill because she's letting him get to her, and that's what he's trying to do. He's provocative when it comes to women. He's an antagonist, like he's a nigger, he's all those things. So like, why are you know this? So why are you letting this happen, right? So yeah, we don't need to own him. We don't need to do nothing. I agree with you. Like you don't have to own him. Stick to the topics, answer the goddamn questions. You are 49 to 48. You cannot afford to spend this time. And then they're gonna say, "Oh, you're an over emotional woman." and you're not fit to lead because look at how you lost your cool just talking to Donald Trump. How are you going to talk to world leaders? You feel what I'm saying? Like, she just keeps looking at him, looking at him. I'm like, bitch, what you looking at? Just fucking talk to the people. Here we go. They're coming back.
You're watching C-SPAN's live coverage
And
of
we're
the
back.
ABC News presidential debate
We're back.
simulcast.
That's real. You can't. You cannot.
Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Could not do this
Welcome back
without
to
other
this
people.
historic
Thanks,
ABC
for
News
doing this.
presidential
I'm happy
debate
to do
tonight.
it.
We're going
I'm
to
happy
continue
to
here, and
do
I want
it.
to turn
I
to the war in
appreciate all
Ukraine.
of
We're
you.
now
Thank
two and
you
a
for
half
the
years
Venmos.
into this
Thank you for the
conflict.
cash
Mr. President,
apps. I
it has been the
appreciate you so
position of the
much.
Biden administration
My
that we
child
must
got a birthday
defend
party
Ukraine
coming
from
up, and
Russia,
I'm
from
paying for it
Vladimir
myself
Putin, to
because I'm a
defend their
single mom and
sovereignty,
his
their
daddy ain't
democracy,
shit.
that it's in
Thank you
America's
all.
best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly.
Oh, because we critique
people being
everybody over
killed by
here.
the millions.
We
It's
don't
the
really like
millions.
her over here.
It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers.
Oh, fake
Look,
numbers. I should
we're
have
in
put.
for
Oh,
250
complaints
billion
about the
or
media,
more
fake news. I guess we
because
could say
they
that.
don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO.
Oh.
They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions
Thank
of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a
Because
look
he
at
has no
what's
respect
happening.
for her.
We're in for 250 to 275 billion.
Don't
They're in
smile.
for
Don't
100
laugh
to
at him. Like, I don't like
150.
that she does
They
that.
should be forced
Just folks
to
say focus,
equalize.
keep your
With
face
that being
straight.
said,
Her
I wanna get the
emotions are
war
all
settled.
up in her
I know
face, and that's
Zelensky
just
very well, and I know
unnecessary.
Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president. Okay, they respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason?
Wow.
He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin.
24
Hasn't
hours.
spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together.
That's it.
That war would have
That's
never
it.
happened.
Any
And in
former
fact,
debate
when I
folks
saw
here, like,
Putin
don't
after I left,
fuck them.
unfortunately
Like, fuck
left
'em.
because our country has gone to hell. But after
None
I
of them
left,
are
when I
taking
saw him
notes.
building
Neither
up
of them is taking
soldiers,
notes
he
about
did
what
it
the other
after I
person
left.
said. Nothing.
I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with
World War
World
III is
War
going to
III,
happen, which is
and we
why
have a
she's going to
president
win,
that
because
we
they're going
don't
to
even
put a
know
black
if he's.
woman in
Where
charge
is
of
our
World War
president?
III.
We don't even
And
know
then
if he's the
blame
president.
And just to
black
clarify
They
women
here,
threw
for
him out
that.
of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president
Mr.
Like,
President,
that
let us
doesn't
do the
know
laugh.
he's
You laugh
alive.
later.
your
That's
time
right.
is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war? Yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this
one of them
moment,
to answer
but
a
also
goddamn
as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing
Answer
from
the
President
question.
Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours. is
You
because he would
answer
just
the
give it up.
question yourself.
And that's not
What
who we are
would
as
you
Americans. Let's
do?
understand what happened here.
Tell us.
I actually met with Zelensky a few days before
us
Russia
what you're going to
invaded,
do.
tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American
How are you
intelligence
going to end the
about how he
war?
could defend himself. Days later, I
How are
went
you
to
going to end
NATO's
the war?
eastern flank, to Poland and Romania.
How are you
And
going to
through
end the
the
war?
work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to
How are you
support
going to end the
Ukraine
war?
in its righteous defense And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent
Somebody
and
said I
free
didn't know
country.
it'd be
If
nerve-wracking
Donald
to
Trump
watch
were
with
president,
people I'm not
Putin
alone.
would
I
be
told
sitting in
y'all.
Kyiv right now.
The
And
non-answers are
understand
maddening.
what
They
that would
are.
mean, because
They
Putin's
are.
agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the
How
European
would you deal
allies
with
and our NATO allies
and end the
are so
war?
thankful that you are no
How would
longer
you end the
president,
war?
and that we understand the importance of the
How would you end
greatest
the war?
military alliance the world has ever known, which is
Greatest
NATO,
military alliance
and what
and
we have done
NATO. Okay.
to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians
Whew.
to fight for their independence.
I am
Otherwise,
high enough for
Putin
this.
would be
That's good.
sitting in
We have
Kyiv
reached it.
with his eyes on the rest
172 in
of
the chat. Hit
Europe,
that like button
starting
for
with
me,
Poland.
please.
And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what
Ooh.
is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President
That's
Harris,
my
thank you.
favorite
We've heard from
part.
both of you on
Because I be
Ukraine tonight.
forgetting because I'm high.
Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to
Now he's
respond to something
talking
you
with
said
the mic.
earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Oh, and you
Putin
giving in
would
to
be sitting
him.
in Moscow, and
Come
he wouldn't have lost
on.
300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting
Quiet, please,
in
he said.
Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons.
That's what I'm saying.
Nobody
Like,
ever
why is
thinks
she
about
trying to
that.
convince
And
him?
eventually,
Fuck him.
maybe he'll use them, and
Fuck
maybe he hasn't been
him.
that threatening, but he does have that. Something
We
we don't even
really
like to
don't.
talk
We
about.
really don't.
Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have
I
never
appreciate him
started.
showing the
She was
questions
the
because I be lost
emissary.
with these
They sent
non-answers.
her in to
Exactly. None of us
negotiate
have any
with
idea what's going on.
Zelensky and
What the
Putin.
fuck?
And she did. And the war started 3 days later.
Vice
And
President?
that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as
That
the
would be
worst
Andrew
vice
Jackson.
president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something.
That would be
She
Andrew
is a
Jackson.
horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate
God.
with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow.
Just answer the
That
fucking
is another
question.
one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times.
It's a yes or
Reality
no
is, It has
question.
been about standing as America
Did
always
you meet
should,
with Putin? It's a
as
yes
a
or
leader
no
upholding
answer.
international rules and norms, as a leader who
God
shows
damn.
strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead.
Hold
Much
on,
what
yo.
is at
Sorry about
stake
that.
here.
Sorry
The
about that.
President of the United States is commander in chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility
It
in
was
terms
yes
of
or no.
ensuring that there is
Yes or
stability
no.
and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them
Everyone
for
is playing
the
games. Meanwhile,
benefit
multiple
of
genocides
personal
continue to
flattery.
unfold. I can't.
You talked
Exactly.
about Ukraine
That's
and
why
Vladimir
we call
Putin.
this
I
shit
do want to
political
talk about
theater.
Afghanistan. It came up
They
in the
literally
first
just
hour of
bombed
this debate.
another
I wanted to move on to
encampment.
Afghanistan.
Said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both
It's
on
lawless.
trade and
It's
on NATO.
lawless.
I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay,
We'll never
we're not
know.
going to
We
protect
will
you.
never
Otherwise, we would have
fucking
never
know.
gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you.
She's
I want
never
to turn to
gonna say
Afghanistan.
that.
It came up in
She's
the
been
first hour
committed
of
to
the
Israel
debate,
since she was
and we
a
witnessed
child.
a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan 4 presidents
This is a
said they
yes or
would,
no
and Joe
fucking
Biden didn't.
answer.
And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive
American diplomacy?
respected world leaders.
Diplomacy?
And this
diplomacy?
Former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with
thank
the
you.
Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was
too.
doing the killing.
I
That's
am,
the fighting
actually.
force within
World
Afghanistan.
is
They don't
moving a
bother
little
doing
bit.
that because
I
they
am.
deal with the wrong people all the time. But
I'm
I got
cross-faded like a
involved.
motherfucker.
And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, 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 and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move
And
on.
these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they
what's
saw how
happening right
incompetent
now?
she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's
She don't like talking
appropriate
about
to
race
weigh
and
in
gender.
on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words. So I'm
I
asking.
don't know. I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying
Stop
to
looking
divide
at him.
us, and
Look at
especially
us.
by race. And let's remember,
Look at us.
how Donald Trump started. He was a land. He owned land. He owned buildings, And he was investigated because he refused to rent property to Black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual
Talk about it.
who took out a full-page ad in the
Yes.
New York Times.
Yes. That's
calling for the
it.
execution
Do it.
of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual
Yeah. Talk
who
about it.
spread birther lies about the first Black president of the United States.
Ooh, go for it.
And I think
Stop
the
looking
American
at him.
people
Stop
want
looking at
better
him.
than that. Want better than this. Want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't
He's not
want
paying
a
her
leader
any
who is
attention. He
constantly
does not
trying to
care.
have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your 3rd time.
This is the most divisive presidency
And they keep giving him the fucking
in the
mic. Come
history of our
on.
country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty.
Why is he saying Bloomberg?
And I said, well, if they
Bloomberg
pled
was
guilty,
not
they
mayor when you
badly
did that.
hurt
Oh
the
my
person, killed the person
God.
ultimately. And if they pled
Oh
guilty,
my-
then they pled,
oh,
we're not guilty.
Bloomberg was not
But
mayor
this is a
when
person
Park
that
5
has to stretch
happened.
back years, 40, 50 years ago,
You're right, he
because
does
there's
not
nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again.
He has
It's
no
going to be
idea what she
bigger,
said.
better, and stronger.
None.
But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman.
No,
She
he's
says
glitching. He's
she is
glitching.
Biden. The worst inflation we've ever
She is
had.
Biden.
A horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up, Lindsay.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer
We need
is
a
a
good
new
one here.
generation of leadership for our country.
Okay, now she's
One
talking
who
about age.
believes
Yeah,
in
bring the
what
age
is
thing in.
possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people.
Pivot
I
to the joy
believe
and
in what we
community.
can do to
Pivot to that.
strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans.
She's not
and-
destroying him, though.
And let's
She's
compare the
floundering quite a
plans.
bit.
I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction.
You said this already.
To pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their
You said this
ideas,
already.
their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families
Which
for
is
the first year
natalist.
of your child's
That
life.
is Republican.
To help you in that most critical stage of your child's development.
Just
I
give
have
them
a
free
plan
diapers.
that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in
Also,
terms of the
you have
American
to
dream
be
by
working and
offering
file
a
taxes to get
help
that
with down payment
$6,000
of
tax credit. I just want to
$25,000
remind
down
everybody
payment
of that.
assistance for first-time home buyers.
People who need that money
That's
the
the kind of
most
conversation I believe, David,
aren't
that people really
filing
want tonight,
taxes.
as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name calling. Let's turn the page
Vice
and
President
move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on.
She
President
really
Trump,
hit us with the Rodney
turn to
King. Can't
policy,
we all
please.
just get along?
To defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
She
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on.
No,
not
she
allow
doesn't.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Would you all like to
That's
see my
what her
gun?
plan is until just
The one that I
recently.
keep in
just
my
need to
office.
respond.
Now, would you like to see it?
The former president
Nobody's
has
taking my
said
gun.
something twice that I need to respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I
gonna
just need to
move on.
respond
I
to
shouldn't be
one time
handling
what
this
he
gun
said.
because I'm
Trump, this is
inebriated.
now your 3rd time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years
Exactly.
after you first started
Teach the
running, do
people,
you have a
Rich.
plan? And can you tell
Dr.
us what it
Hall.
is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And
They
what
ain't
I
taking my
said that if
fucking
we
gun.
come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were
You are
unanimous.
correct.
They wouldn't vote to
That's why I
change
put
it.
the shit
If
back
they would
down.
have done that, we would have had a much better plan
I'm a
than
responsible
Obamacare.
gun owner.
But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go
Instagram, we
away.
want healthcare,
I
not money.
decided, and I
Please.
told my
That's
people,
true.
the top people,
I'm
and they're
45.
very
I
good
ain't having
people.
no
I
more
have a lot of
pick-me.
good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do
I think
it.
it's supposed to
But
be
until
90
then, I'd
minutes.
run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan.
What's the
I'm
plan?
not president right
What's
now.
the plan?
But if
I'm not president right
we
now.
come up
Okay.
with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant
Obamacare
future.
gave me
Vice
free
President
birth
Harris, in
control.
2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do
Concept
is
of a
maintain
plan,
and grow
right?
the Affordable
What
Care
are the
Act.
concepts?
I'll
Don't
get to
nobody
that,
fucking
Lindsay. I just
know.
need to respond to a previous point that the
Excuse me.
former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns
She's
away.
a gun
stop
owner?
with the continuous lying about this
This
stuff.
is the first time I've heard
As it relates
this.
to the Affordable
Oh,
Care
shit,
Act,
bitch, I might
understand,
actually vote
just
for
look
you
at
now.
the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60
She's a gun
times
owner?
he tried to get rid of the Affordable
Oh,
Care
that's
Act.
sexy.
60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said,
Get out.
no, you don't.
Get
No, you
out
don't.
of my
No,
chat.
you don't get rid
Get
of the
out.
Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a
They still
child had
can.
asthma, if someone was a breast cancer
still can.
survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes?
They find other
And
ways to do it.
thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices.
The same way
on
I
behalf
ain't
of
know that
you, the American
those
people.
hated black
Donald
people,
Trump
I
said
ain't
he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to
Okay.
be
What is the
to
plan?
strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not
Okay.
get rid of it,
Yeah.
Vice
pass this
President
prologue
Harris,
in
thank
terms
you.
of where Donald
Pass
Trump
this
stands on that.
I
prologue.
want to move to an
I like
issue
that.
that's
That was
important
slick.
for a
She
lot
made a
of
mistake. At number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to give.
President
People
Trump-
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's
There are
important for a
long
number of
lines for
Americans, in
things.
particular younger
Took me
voters, and
3.5
that's climate
months to get my
change.
kid a
President
doctor's
Trump, with
appointment.
regard to the environment, you
And
say that we
same.
have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris,
Oh,
we'll
now we're
start with
talking
you.
about the
1
climate.
minute for you each.
He thinks it's
Well,
a
the
hoax.
former president had said that climate change is a hoax.
There we go. There we
And
go.
what we know is that it is very real. You
There we
ask
go.
anyone who
There we
lives in a
go.
state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up.
Yep.
You ask
Go
anybody who
for it.
has been
Go for it.
the victim of what that means
She
in terms
has
of losing their home, having nowhere
advantage
to go.
here.
We know
So
that
she
we
has
can
to go
actually
in. She
deal with
has
this
to go
issue. The
in.
young people of America care deeply about this
She
issue.
has to go in.
And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production
Talk about the
to
record.
historic levels.
Yes.
We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing
Talk
jobs while
about
I have
it.
been vice
This is what you
president.
need to be
We
doing
have
the entire
invested in
fucking
clean
time.
energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also
Talk
proud
about
to
it.
have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants,
This
not
is her
closing them
strength.
like
She's got
happened
3
under
of the
Donald
4
Trump.
major
President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald
unions
Trump.
on
Let
her
me just tell you,
side.
they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants
not
in
true.
Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their
No,
cars
correct.
into the United
When
States because
Donald
of
Trump,
these people.
smirks like
What they have given to
he's
China is
beyond
unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't
His
go after
problem
people
is that he
because
speaks in
supposedly China paid
hyperbole.
him millions of
And
dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his
Some
son,
of the points that
they
he
get all
makes,
this money from
he's
Ukraine.
not wrong,
They get all
but
this
because he
money
takes
from
it to
all of these different
hyperbole,
countries,
we
and then you wonder,
dismiss
why is
it.
he
You know
so
what I mean?
loyal
Like,
to
and
this
that's
one,
what
that
gets
one,
me
Ukraine,
about him. I'm
China?
like, yo,
Why
but he
is
doesn't
Why
do
did he get
debate prep.
$3.5 million
So
from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
not.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing
all
statements
right.
from both of our
Well,
candidates.
we're about to
An
get the
historic
closing
night, this
statements.
ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
So listen, all right. If you can't already tell, your girl is intoxicated. I'm high, I'm intoxicated. It's okay. We about to have the final thoughts. Okay. I think Harris wins this debate on talking points. I think he wins on domination. And that's not surprising, right? Like we get it. I want her to look at the fucking camera and talk to the people, because forget him. He's nothing. He's a non-issue, whatever. People don't know what your plan is. So you need to make sure that people know what your plans are. Do what he does. Ignore the questions and just lay out your policy platform. That's it. That's it. That's it. Just do it. But she spent so much of this debate looking at him and being like, nobody gives a shit about that. What are your policies? What are you doing? Like, whatever.
As a podcast on
Whatever.
C-SPAN Now, our free mobile app, or wherever
I
you get
am.
your podcasts. C-SPAN, your unfiltered view of politics.
Yes. because she needs to address the American people. She needs to
As
tell
the
them directly, here's
2024
my plan,
presidential
here's what I'm going to
campaign
do for
continues,
you, or
American
whatever. She's
History
spending
TV
all her
presents a new
time like
9-part
that, and
series,
you know what? He hasn't looked
Historic
at her once.
Presidential Elections.
He
Learn
hasn't
about the
looked
pivotal
at
issues
her
of different
once.
eras, uncover what made these elections historic, and explore their lasting
Also,
impact on the nation.
I
This Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, a look at the
some
election
of
of
y'all don't remember that I am a professional public speaker, okay? I started political theater with Dr. T because I'm critiquing people's public speaking skills and how they carry themselves. And that's what that's about. So I'm coming with a level of expertise, right? And so I'm critiquing things like body language and word choice and things like that because that's what I do, okay? God damn. Get on my goddamn nerves. Y'all be new here and don't know
Start
what
your
I
day
do.
with Washington
Somebody asked
Journal,
earlier,
your
why are we
window
talking
into the
about her
nation's
tone? Because
capital,
that's what I
the
do.
only daily nationally
That's what I
televised
do.
forum
I talk about everybody's
discussing the
tone.
latest
I talk about
issues
their
in
stance. I
Washington
talk about how they move
and
their
across the
hands.
country.
I talk about
What
their
I love
facial
about your
expressions.
show
I
is
talk
that
about
it
it all.
gives the people an
That's what I
opportunity to speak for themselves on the issues that they actually care about.
Damn it.
Join us for a live 3-hour conversation with a variety of congressional members and Washington influencers.
I love this show. This is my favorite show to do of all shows because I actually get to hear what the American people care about.
You can watch Washington Journal live every
Right.
morning at
I
7 Eastern
don't.
on C-SPAN.
Because it is my
C-SPAN now
stream. This
or
is my
online
channel.
at cspan.org.
I'm doing a public goddamn service. Thank you to people who sent Cash App. Thank you to people who sent Venmo. Thank you to people
Listening to
that
programs
sent,
on C-SPAN through
PayPal. I
C-SPAN Radio is
appreciate you.
easy. Tell your smart
Okay.
speaker, play C-SPAN.
Just a reminder that I do curate this community. I do have to pay for my internet. I do have to pay for my drugs. I am a professional public speaker, so in some ways, you're paying me for that, and I appreciate you. So you see the scrolly thing, I'm crossfaded like a motherfucker. But we can't do this alone. We do this together. And I'm smart. So leave me alone.
Of politics, all at your fingertips. You can also stay current with the latest episodes of Washington Journal and find scheduling information for C-SPAN's TV networks
I
and
do this for a
C-SPAN
living.
Radio, plus a
I
variety
feel like-
of compelling podcasts. C-SPAN Now is available at the Apple Store and Google Play. Scan the QR code to download it for free today, or visit our website,
so glad I made it.
cspan.org/C-SPAN Now. C-SPAN Now, your front row seat to Washington, anytime, anywhere.
And now back to the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia for our live simulcast of the ABC News presidential debate.
I got a crush
reminder,
on
we'll
him, and
open the
now I'm
phone
like
lines
all
as
high
the
and
debate ends to
like
get your reaction.
I look bad. I'm like, oh gosh. I be having crushes on people, and they be watching me, and I'm like, don't look
Center
at
in
me.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here
I gotta
again,
give you my
David
representative.
Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back tonight. The
My
time has
girl
come for
Kia
closing statements, and Vice
reminding
President
y'all.
Harris.
Here we
begin
go.
with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have
Man
so
that
much more
bought
in
me a
common
Yeti
than what
mic.
separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And
I'ma go
a
dig it
vision of
home.
that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations,
You
the
buy me
dreams,
things I put
the
out.
hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy,
Opportunity shit
investing in
pisses me
small
off.
businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own
How
body
about
and not
everybody
have her
needs to be
government
able to
tell
make
her what to
decisions
do.
about their own
I'll tell you,
bodies?
I started my
Everyone.
career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat?
Ooh.
The only thing I ever
You
asked
threw
them,
the book at
are
some
you
folks,
okay?
though.
And that's the kind of president we need right now.
Yeah.
Someone who cares
Yeah.
about
Wow.
you and is not putting
Wow.
themselves
Wow.
first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country
You're
by
not gonna be
investing
president
right
for
now
20 years?
in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President
Right.
Trump.
So
Right.
she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had
He's
3.5
right.
years to create jobs and all the
They
things
have
we
been
talked
creating
about.
jobs.
Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it
Ooh.
because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You
What?
believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not
Right.
going to do
She did
things
say
that are
that.
going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and
Ooh,
within 1 year, they
Germany.
were back to building
Germany.
normal energy plants. We're not ready for
Germany.
it. We can't sacrifice our country
Germany.
for the sake of bad vision. But I
Huh?
just ask one simple question.
One simple
Why
question.
didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline.
Mm.
We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see
Who's
me. They
laughing?
call me. We're
I
laughed
don't
at
even
all over the
understand what's
world. They
going
don't
on
understand
right
what
now.
happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to
Russia.
end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry.
Nuclear
I
weapons.
rebuilt our entire military.
No,
She gave
what?
a lot of it away to the
What?
Taliban. She gave it to
She
Afghanistan.
gave
What
the
these people have done
Taliban?
to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into
I'm
our country.
sorry.
Many of them are
When
criminals,
did
and they're
Kamala Harris
destroying our
give the
country.
military
The
to the
worst
Taliban?
president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump,
What
thank
is
you.
happening?
And that is our ABC News
All right.
presidential debate
Well,
from here in Philadelphia at the
well.
National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm
Oh
David Muir. Thank
God.
you for watching.
Oh God. I don't. Okay. Well. Okay. What? I don't know what's happening here. Thank you all for joining this evening. Thank you all so much for everything. You all are awesome. We are doing vice presidential debate as well. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and make sure that you check me out and on Threads, Instagram, and things like that to get updates about what we are doing. I really appreciate you all. If thank you to everybody who hit the Cash App, who hit the PayPal, who hit the Venmo. Thank you so much. Like I said, my son got a birthday party coming up, so it's really going right towards that. I appreciate you all. We have created community here. Between Instagram and YouTube, we had like 200 people checking in. I really appreciate you all so much. We will be back for the vice presidential campaign. And what's interesting about that is that I will be joining Mark Lamont Hill's after show after the vice presidential debate. So y'all be able to join over there. Thank you. I love you all so very, very, very much. And I will see you next time. Good night, everyone.